Hi, I'm Callum from Tyne Valley Motorhomes, and this is a handover video of the Chausson Sport Line S697. So opening the driver's door on the Ford, located in this step, you do have your tyre inflation kit. So you've got your inflator and your gel. So should you get a puncture, you can put the gel in, but if it is a little puncture and you can get some air in, I would recommend putting the air in first and getting it to a tyre shop where you can puncture repair the tyre rather than using the gel, because once the gel's put in the tyre you do need to replace the tyre. So that's only for emergencies, and that is underneath the driver's step of the base vehicle. Little top tip as well with the door, to stop the cab from locking, because it's got what's called a mislock on it. Because it was built as a chassis cab, it doesn't see the habitation door. So should you unlock the van and then not get in the cab and manually unlock the habitation door, these two doors will lock after a certain length of time. To stop that from happening, when you come back to the van, if you just open the driver's door first, you've opened the door and you've stopped the sequence from reoccurring and locking this door. So here you've got your gas locker. LPG, you fit one 6 kilogram propane bottle. The motorhome runs off propane. This is my test bottle on board. So once you get your bottle on board, you want to tie the bottle in. So use the strap, tie it in. And then you want to use a spanner or an adjustable wrench and nip the bottle up. So left to tighten, right to loosen, hand tighten it first onto the bottle, then the spanner, nip it up before turning the cylinder on at the top, making sure that you turn your cylinder off before you start driving. To open all the habitation locks, including the lockers and the door, you use your habitation key. Pop it in here, go up to lock, down to open, and here you have your habitation door. Two hands on the fly screen and you can pull this across so you can keep the unwanted guests out when touring in the summer, but do just be careful that the dog doesn't run through the fly screen. Located underneath the back driver's wheel, you have a handle here, and this is your waste water. So this is any water that you've put down the plug hole, shower water, dishes water, cups of tea, anything like that. On the way out of your site, you drive over the motorhome service bay, which is a grid, pull the handle and drain off all your waste water, because you don't want to be driving around with the added weight of dirty water, because it's going to eat into your payload and mean that you're going to use a lot more fuel because you're going to be carrying a little bit extra weight. So get rid of this on your site before driving off. Always leave it open ajar so that you rock any loose water out, and make sure it's fully drained off in the winter to avoid the water from freezing. So at the back of this model, you do have a large garage area. So you've got one large door this side, one slimmer door on the passenger side. In the garage you'll find your loose fit carpets, your owner minding handles, your infill cushions. There's a light, making sure that the control panel's turned on first. This will work as it works off the main 12-volt control panel. It's heated via the diesel heater. You'll find two 30-volt socket in here and a 12-volt socket, so if you want to charge anything you can. You'll also find your infill cushions, your bed makeup board, your carb mats, your internal silver screens are also in here, and you do have D-rings on the floor, and there's a large storage space in the garage for all your outdoor equipment. On the back of the van you do have your high-level brake light, two Fiamma bike rack bars where the back panel has been strengthened in construction to take a bike rack. So it would be a Fiamma bike rack you'd want, and you'd probably want the matte black rather than the chrome, just with everything being black and grey on this van. But as a Fiamma bike rack you would need, which your Chausson dealers can fit, or ourselves. And then at the bottom, just above where the number plate goes, you do have your rear view reversing camera. The other side, on the passenger side of the vehicle, you do have your slimmer door. As you can see there, you can see the D-rings, and you've also got your boiler drain down in here. So there's a little yellow tap, and when you're putting the van away for the winter to avoid the water from freezing, you lift this yellow toggle up and that stops the water from freezing. So all you need to do is lift it up. If you look outside, you'll see the water coming out the vehicle. That allows the 10 litres of water in the boiler to drain directly out underneath the chassis to avoid that water from freezing. Once you've opened this, you'll open your fresh and your waste, and you'll also open your taps within the van, remove the shower head from the shower hose, lie this down so no water can stay in any taps, turn the pump on for 10 seconds. This allows any water that's in any lines to be drained off and spat out the taps, and then your system is fully drained for the winter. When you come to reuse it, before you ever think about putting any water in, shut the boiler, shut the fresh and the waste, assemble the shower head, shut the taps, fill the vehicle with fresh water. Once you fill the vehicle with fresh water, you can then put the pump on and prime it through the taps first. On the cold side of the tap, you'll get a pressurised flow of water straight away. On the hot side, it'll cough and splutter, make all sorts of noises for a few minutes until you get a pressurised flow. Don't panic, this can take 5 minutes or longer to get a pressurised flow of water through the hot side. Once you've done one tap, do them all, and then you can start to heat your water and check that your hot water system is working for the season ahead. When heating the water on gas, this cover must come off as it blocks the flue. So place your hand at the top, thumb in the middle, peel the cover off. Best place to keep this is in the passenger door pocket. When the passenger comes to get in, notices it's off, pops it back on. But that's only when heating the water on gas. If you're using electric, it can stay on. It's always best that you put it back on when travelling as well, so that you don't get any dirt behind here. And if you have left it on, the little red light on the dial will come on of the gas water indicator where you turn it on. So you need to come back out, take it off, switch the gauge off first, the dial, take this off, blow into the hole, eliminates the gas, and then you can set it away again. If it's still on, it's either the gas bottle switched off or the gas has run out. But pop this on when you're travelling to avoid any road dirt getting in here. So to operate your cassette, which is Fetford, squeeze the door drops down, hand underneath the orange handle, lift it up, slide the cassette out of the vehicle. The cassette indicates with the indicator on the toilet when the cassette is full. Once it's full, you would remove it from the vehicle like so. You can either carry it with a handle on the front, or you can wheel it should it be too heavy and you've got a little further to go on the site to dispose the waste. Go to the waste disposal point on site, which is your Elson point, and remove the grey cap. Once you remove the grey cap, pop that to a side for the moment. Start to pour the cassette, and as you pour it, press the orange button here. This allows a bit of air in, stops it glugging, gives it a consistent flow. Tip out everything in the cassette. There is normally a tap there, so you pop some water in, give it a rinse, tip out again. And then once you've tipped it out, you can go in with a cap full of chemical, which is 120 ml. So if you want to measure it, you can. This is a measuring cap, or you can just pour it in here. Green or blue, depending on the site. Green is more environmentally friendly for their septic tanks, but you can carry one of each. Pop it into here, and then once it's in, you push it back into the vehicle. But you tend to find on most sites now that there's a cassette cleaning machine, which are getting more and more popular. So if you do want to, you can pay and put your cassette into a machine and it'll clean it for a fee. But that is entirely up to you. But once you put the chemical in, push it back into the vehicle, flush a little bit of water in. The chemical then starts to degrade anything that's in the cassette, and it'll indicate again once it is full. To hook the vehicle up, you'll find the hookup point on the passenger side of this van. You get the hookup lead, and you want to lift and expose the connection. Hook the van up first, and then the sight, and do it in reverse order when unhooking, whether it's hooking it up at a site or whether it's hooking it up at home. It doesn't really matter, but do it in this order so that you're never walking around with a live cable in your hand. This locker here is known as your Technibox locker. So to expose the inside, press both catches in, drop the door. On the right hand side, you do have your freshwater tank. So this is where you need to carry yourself a hose pipe with some hose pipe connections, as it's mainly just a brass tap provided by the site, and it depends on what site you're going on or what type of pitch you're going on will determine whether there's water on the pitch or there's water on the way into the site. But if there is, again, motorhome service bay before you check in or just after you've checked in, you want to fill the water up. Or if you're on a site, a super site with the water on the pitch, you can fill up there. If you are travelling, tend to only travel with a maximum of 20 litres of water on board, because this is a 100-litre tank. It's going to eat into the weight of the vehicle, the payload and the consumption of diesel, and you don't need to be driving around with 100 kilograms of water on board. If you're going on a longer journey, you just tend to drive with 20. It gives you enough to have a cup of tea, use your own toilet, and then get the water when you get there. However, if you're wild camping, you will have to take water with you, because you won't be able to get water where you're going, because you're just parking up for the night. So hose into here, wait until it overflows or until you look on the control panel and see how much water is on board the vehicle. Then you pop your cap back on. However, if you've got a full tank of water and you want to drive off, you can lift this lever up here. And lifting this lever up, as long as the pump's on the main control panel, which we'll talk about inside the vehicle, you lift that up, it'll pump the water out from 100 litres to 20. So it means that you're ready to travel again. To get the remaining water out or drain the tank fully in the winter, underneath the van, you do have this valve here. So this is your diesel exhaust for your heater. Just above it, you can turn that there and the water will drain out. And that is your freshwater drain valve for the full tank. So you want to ensure that it's closed properly and drained off in the winter to avoid the water from freezing and causing any damage to your freshwater tank. Coming back to the locker now, on the left hand side you've got all your electrics. So you've got your battery charger, which charges your leisure battery when the vehicle is hooked up. You've got your 12 volt fuses, which control all your 12 volt items on board. So this is your distribution board. Carry some spare fuses with you. They are just standard blade fuses. Put them in the van in case, if anything isn't working on 12 volt, always come out here and check the fuse first. And it's dead easy, you just pick the fuse out. So take the cover off, pick a fuse out, check the center of the fuse. As you can see there, that's intact. If that was broken in the middle, the fuse has gone, and you do need to replenish the fuse with the same ampage, and then you just push a new fuse back in. On this side, you've got your trips on mains 230 volt electric. So anything that comes off hookup comes in here. This is your RCD, similar to your distribution board at home. If you think you're not receiving power, the best way to check is by pressing the trip button. If the vehicle trips like it has there, we've got power. But mainly if you've tripped the power, it's never the van, it's the site, but always check the van first. At the passenger door, you do have your easy fill diesel system. So this is a magnetic cap, no cap to take off. Push the diesel nozzle into here and it opens the anti-siphon device further back and you can fill with diesel fuel. You do get a plastic tube which goes in here if you want to fill with additive, or if you're filling from a jerry can, just to open that anti-siphon device. And underneath you've got your AdBlue tank. So this is 22 litres on the Ford Transit, and it'll do 5,000 mile on a full tank. Once you've done around 4,000 mile and you've got 1,000 mile left to go, you'll get a warning light on the dash, AdBlue level low, 1,000 mile until 0 restart. With the AdBlue, if you fill up at the pump, it's far cheaper than buying it in the barrels. The barrels at a petrol forecourt will charge you £30, and this will take 2, that's £60. Whereas if you go to a bigger petrol station that accommodates larger vehicles like wagons and trucks, you'll be able to buy for about £1.20 a litre on the pump, and just depending on how many miles you do a year, which the average is 5,000 on most motorhome insurers anyway, you might only have to do this once a year. On all Chaussons, underneath the passenger seat is the location of your leisure battery. So it's in there. The seat does need to come out to access the battery in the future if you ever need to change it in many years to come. And underneath the driver's seat, with it being the Ford Transit, the engine battery is underneath the driver's seat. Using the main ignition key, if you pop this above the Ford Raptor style grille, just in here, turn it to the left to pop the bonnet, and then to release it to the right, you can get underneath the bonnet. And underneath here, you've got your screen wash, which is here, your engine oil filler, your brake fluid, your oil dipstick for checking the levels of the oil in the engine at any one time. To jump start the vehicle, because the battery is underneath the driver's seat, if you earth on here, which is the engine hoist, so your black clip on there, and your red one just under here, you'll be able to jump start the vehicle or jump start the vehicle off the motorhome. This is your coolant tank. And then you've got a weight, the second stage conversion weight plate under here. So you've got a chassis number at the top, 3.5 ton gross vehicle weight, 3.5 ton train weight, front and back axle weights. Build number is in the bottom corner. This motorhome at present can't tow anything. The automatic transmission from Ford can tow 750 kilograms, but you have to get a tow bar fitted by a Chausson dealer. So you have to approach a Chausson dealer. They'll then get the relevant new paperwork from Chausson head office in France with a new certificate of conformity to change your weight plate and your logbook to mean that you now have a towing weight. So to operate your 12 volt control panel, once you come into the vehicle, you'll want to turn your power on. So you need to press this green button here, and that gives you your 12 volt master switch. So that puts a 12 volt on from the leisure battery. However, if you hooked up, you'll get this little green light here, which indicates that the vehicle is receiving mains 230 volt. So if you plug the household item in, it'll work. However, if you're wild camping and you're not hooked up, your mains 3-pin sockets inside the vehicle won't work. Next, you want to turn on the lights, which is this button here. This is your master switch for the lights, then they all are individually switched around the van. If you want to use a tap, toilet, or shower, you're going to have to turn the water pump on, because otherwise you're not going to get a pressurised flow of water to the taps. And this is this one here, so a picture of the tap. It'll kick in, it'll pressurise, and then it will cut out, and then it will react to when the tap's open and pressurise the water through the tap and then turn itself back off. But you don't need to keep turning this on and off, just make sure that it is turned on when you get to your site, making sure that you've got sufficient water in the tank first, of course, and then you can just use the water facilities on board and you'll get a pressurised flow. However, if you haven't got any water on board, don't turn this on, because you'll burn the pump out. Next one's your awning light, which is a light on the outside of the van. So if you want to sit underneath the awning and it's getting a bit dark or dusk, you can put the awning light on. The 4 buttons here, or symbols should I say, correspond with the 4 buttons on the bottom. So you have the trailer battery, which is your leisure battery reading. This will always read around 80 to 90%. At the moment it's hooked up, so it's given a false reading of 100%. Take the hook out to get a true reflection of the leisure battery. This one is of the van battery, so that's the Ford engine battery in this picture of the truck. You've got your fresh water, so we've got around 20 to 30 litres of fresh water on board there at the moment. That is showing orange as well, which means that it's a concern because it's low. So it's drawing your attention to the panel that it's orange. It now needs to be filled back up with water because you're getting low on fresh water. And then this one here dims the panel, so should it be too bright or too dim to see, you can bring it up or bring it down by just pressing and holding. But on a night you might want to dim it down for the people at the front of the van. As this is fitted with a solar panel, the solar panel only works when the master switch is turned on. So if you're leaving the van and you want the solar panel to charge the leisure battery, which will only do when the vehicle's not hooked up. When hooked up, the mains 230 volt takes priority because it brings in a lot more than a solar panel can provide. You need to make sure that you leave this switch on. Turning this off the charge from the solar panel, which is 100 watt, won't come into the vehicle. So if you are storing it on the driveway or in the storage yard, and you want to make sure in the summer that your batteries are getting topped up, you need to leave that switch turned on, which is your green master switch. To operate your Webasto diesel heater, first of all, you need to make sure that you've got sufficient diesel in the diesel tank, as it's drawn off the main engine tank. So it needs to be a quarter of a tank or more, but I always like to say half a tank or more, because with a quarter, you don't want to be bang on a quarter when you're pulling onto your site, because it takes a thimble size every 2 hours, and if you're parked up for a week at the same site, you're going to get a problem where it's going to get too low on diesel. So if you're at a half, it's better, because it's not going to use a half in a week on a site. And it always gives you enough to get off the site with 100 mile left in the main engine tank to then get off to a petrol station and fill back up. So you're never going to get a empty diesel tank off the diesel heater, because there are two different intake heights. To start the heater off, you press the quick start button, which is this button here. So press it once, it goes from white to green. That indicates that it's on. You can then use the dial to choose the temperature, and once happy, press enter. Making sure that the temperature is above the outside air temperature, of course, so it's no good having it on 20 degrees heat if it's 20 degrees outside, because inside the van is going to be more than that. It's going to be more like 25 to 26 degrees inside the van, so it isn't going to work. So it always has to be above the outside air temperature. Pressing again, you can choose the performance of the heater. So you've got one wavy line, which is eco, you've got normal, and you've got performance. So you can change. Normally it's just set up to normal. You can use a timer, so you can time it if you go to the left. So you can time it for 2 hours, or you can just leave it on continuously, which is the figure of 8. Or if you press this button and you get the menu, you can put timers on, you can just start the heater on, but again, just press the quick start button. Or you can start the ventilation, and the ventilation goes blue, and you've got 4 stages of ventilation. Stage 3 there, we'll put it on max, and it goes blue, and what that does is it just redirects the air that's within the van, so it recirculates it. It's the same on your carb, where you just recirculate the air within the van, so if it's warm enough you can just recirculate it if you want, but mainly you would just press it once for green, select the temperature as it's a heater, and let it start to heat the motorhome. And this is your diesel heater. So in the kitchen you do have a 2 burner gas hob, so make sure that the glass lid's back far enough. You've got an inbuilt ignition. Again, your 12 volt panel needs to be on for this to work. And here you've got 2 lit gas rings. Once you've had them on, if you do, just allow them to cool down before putting the glass lid down. Otherwise, if they're too hot, they will smash the glass lid. Sink cover, you can remove that. It's also a bit of a chopping board on the back. As long as the pump's on your panel, which is your water pump, you'll be able to get a pressurised flow of water. And that's red hot, that water there, so your water is up to temperature. As you can see, the steam coming off the water. So your water gets to 60 degrees on the hot water, depending on what setting you have it on. Yeah. To operate your fridge, which is a freeway fridge with freezer compartment at the top there, this is your source selector. So you've got off, so you've got 2 offs either side. You've got battery, which runs off the engine battery but has to be pre-chilled beforehand. It does not run off the leisure battery, it runs off the engine. When the engine's running, it's designed, it puts a fan on in the fridge and recirculates the cold air within it, so it's got to be pre-chilled beforehand. So if you are going away, say on Friday night, and you're keeping this at home, by Wednesday you want to hook the vehicle up. By no later than Wednesday you want to hook the vehicle up, and you want to allow the battery to take sufficient charge, the leisure battery, but you also want to put the fridge on mains electrics, which I'll show you how in a moment, to chill for a day on its own. Put the shopping in the night before or the afternoon before, and then when you drive you pop it onto the battery, and it'll just keep the shopping nice and fresh and edible until you arrive at your site, and you either go to electric, which is this one here, picture of the plug, which will act as a mains household fridge on mains 230 volt, or if you're going to a wild camping spot where you're not hooked up and you don't have hookup facility, you would have to use gas, which is the centre one here. So to set the gas away, you press the gas ignition and this one together. The band goes into green. Don't let go until you're in the green. Once you're in the green, you can come off, and that is operating off your gas supply from your bottle. This side you've got your temperature, so when pre-chilling you may want to have it on max just to get the fridge down to temperature a lot sooner, but once you put your shopping in you'll want to turn it down because max can sometimes form ice within the fridge. So you can adjust the temperature this side. Just a little top tip going back to the gas, if you've had the bottle off and you haven't used the van for a while, pull the gas through on the hob first, because the lines will be empty and full of air instead of gas. You need to pull the gas through the gas lines within the motorhome, and once you've got it through to here, your highest point, you'll then be able to get your fridge going, but it may take a couple of times to light if you haven't used it. When not using the fridge, it's very important that you turn it off. You've got lights here on both sides, a freezer box. You clean out your fridge and you leave the door open, which on this you just pull this centre little nib out just here, and that locks in just underneath, and it allows air circulation in the fridge and freezer to avoid smells from happening when left parked up for any length of time. At the bottom you do have the travel lock, so when you're travelling with something in the fridge, to avoid the fridge door from opening you can lock it, and that'll stop the door from opening, but once you get to your site and want to be in, you'll have to push it to the back of the van so that you can open the fridge door. In the bottom of your kitchen cupboard below your cutlery drawer you do have 3 gas isolation valves. So you've got the hob, you've got the fridge, and you've got the water heater. Should there be any problems with gas, isolate the main source, which is your bottle. However, these are mainly for when the vehicle is annually habitation serviced. If you do need to close them, they're all in the open position at the moment. You would just turn it the other way. This is closed, this is open. But make sure you don't knock these when loading the van with pots and pans and things in here and cause this to be closed, because then you won't get any gas to that individual appliance. So to operate your grill, there's a light here, so you can turn that on and off, but make sure your lights are turned on the main control panel, because if your lights aren't turned on the main control panel, your master switch, this light won't come on. Then you've got your gas valve and your ignition at the top. So a couple of, you'll have to bring it through. Best to just hold, listen for the gas, then ignite, and there you have your grill. Now in the washroom, to operate the toilet first, make sure the water pump is turned on your control panel. Press the blue button at the back, which is fresh water flush, so it comes from your main fresh water, so it's what you put in with the hose pipe. We'll put a little bit of flush in first before opening the blade, which is the grey lever here on the pedestal of the toilet. Slide that to the right. Use the toilet. Flush the toilet after use. If you've got any pink liquid, put in a spray bottle, dilute it with water. Now's your chance to spray the bowl and flush, and then close the blade after use. Always do it in that routine, as when the cassette indicates it's full, which it will with a red light underneath the diagram of the cassette here on the back, where your flush button is, you'll be able to pull the cassette straight out the side of the van. If the blade's left open, the mechanism locks the cassette in and it won't come out. So you need to make sure that the blade's closed. So if you get into a routine of closing after you've used the toilet, which you will want to anyway for smells and things, you'll always get the cassette out the outside of the van. Above you do have a toiletry cabinet. You've got your sink here, so your hand basin. Again, that water's red hot there. And then when you're ready to use the shower, if you press this catch here and pull this round, it'll cover the toilet, and behind you have a shower cubicle. So you've got a duct board in, which is great for bearing weight and also water usage. So instead of all the water pooling, it'll just gradually drip into the 2 waste traps in the shower tray. Make sure when you winterise the van and you drain down the boiler, the fresh tank, the waste tank, I'll get on to how to drain the boiler in a moment. You don't forget about all your taps, so open all your taps within the van, remove the shower head from the hose and lie this hose down in the shower tray, because if it's left like this and any water sat in here, it'll freeze and damage the pipe, so you don't want that to happen. You want all the water out so that when you're ready to reuse it, you can use the van and there's no damage from frost. Make sure that you don't clean any of the shower cubicle out with any harsh chemicals. Soapy water and a microfiber cloth is good enough to clean your shower tray, your sink, your toilet and all your walls with, because if you use any bleach, you're going to discolour the finish. And then finally, you do have a concertina door which comes across, but when travelling, you want to make sure that this is locked into place, like so. You've got a hanging rail above for wet towels, but it's also great if you've been caught out walking the dog or on a walk with a wet coat. A couple of hangers in there, hang them, they'll drip dry, shut the door, diesel heater on. Get the smallest place in the van, it'll get lovely and warm. And then you do have your skylight, so you can open that up for ventilation. You have a fly screen on and a blackout blind, but these are on springs, so just bring them across very gently because they'll go back and they might catch your fingers. But when you put the sky lid down, you want to lock it before you drive. And you always want to make sure all your skylights and windows are locked before you drive. You can't drive with these open because they're just plastic. The wind will damage them and they're quite expensive to replace. So you want to make sure that before you drive off, you just check everything's locked and secure before you move. Heating the hot water can be done 2 ways. So you've got a Truma boiler which holds 10 litres of water at any one time. So you can heat it off electric, which is your Truma EL switch. Off's in the centre. You've got your lower output of electric, which is 750 watts at the top. Or you've got your bigger output of 1850, so 1 kilowatt at the top, 2 kilowatts at the bottom of mains power. So if you were on a site, you would use electric to heat your water. However, if you're in desperate need of hot water, you can also add the gas to it, which will reduce the time it takes to heat the 10 litres in the boiler. And this is the gas side. So the cover needs to come off. If the cover is on the outside of the van, you'll get the red light. You'll also get the red light if you forgot to turn your gas on or you've run out of gas. And you've got 2 settings. You've got 50 degrees at the top and you've got 70 degrees at the bottom. However, you would only just use your gas when wild camping. You won't waste your gas when you're on a site because you've paid your fees to be on the site, use their electric, so you don't really be wanting to use the gas unnecessarily. You would use that when wild camping and you'd use the electric for when you're on a site. Like I was saying, you've got 10 litres of water in the boiler at any one time. However, that's 10 litres of water at either 40 degrees on the lower output or 60 degrees on the higher output. You're not going to stand underneath the shower with these temperatures. If you mix the water on the tap, you'll be able to get between 15 and 20 litres if you need a shower in the van. At the back of the S697 model, you do have 2 single beds. but you do have the option of making it into a double across the width of the vehicle. And to do this, you just need to lift your bed mattresses up slightly, lift this up, and it turns over, fills the space, but you need to put the front into the two clip points on the step. And then what you can do is you can put this cushion back in at the back, and there's an infill cushion which goes in here and forms a double bed across the width of the van. But you do have quite a step up if you do this, whereas if it's just set out as two singles, you've got the steps to climb up into the bed. So the front double dinette also creates a bed. So what you need to do with the dinette table is lift it off the rail by lifting at 90 degrees, pop that down and remove the bottom leg before placing it into the bottom rail. Once you've placed the table down, it's now time for the extra infill board, which can be found in the garage, which you need to pop your two extra legs, which clip into here, like so. And then that sits just here. So that overhangs like so. That's the structure of the bed made. Now we use the base cushion and the infill cushions, which I'll show you separately how they go. So now the infill cushions are in place. You've got your big infill cushion here, which goes on top of the extra board. The small cushion that's on this stool here goes at the back, and then you've got a double hinged cushion. This one is fully soft, and this one has a hard backed ply base. So there you have a bed. You can remove the backrest should you want extra width to the bed. You can push the seats back a little bit so you don't have so it butts up nicely to the bed. But there is your additional bed on the Chausson S514. So fitted in the cab is a new Pioneer 950 DAB unit, which incorporates DAB radio, FM radio, Bluetooth audio, and you've also got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So if you want to use this feature, as there is no sat-nav built into here, you need to go into the settings. So if you scroll along and hit settings, go down to the bottom, connections, it'll start to find you, but you need to look for that as well. So on your phone, open your settings on your phone, Bluetooth, and you want to find SP Evo 950 DAB. So you want to search for it as that's searching for you, and they should connect together. Then it'll ask you if you want to use wireless CarPlay. You can still use wired CarPlay and wired Android Auto through the USB on the dashboard, but it is wireless, so you can leave your phone in your pocket. But you have to set it off Apple Maps or Google Maps or Waves for your sat-nav on your phone. You've also got the feature of, you can, once putting it into reverse, the gearbox, as it's on the automatic transmission, you can see your rear view camera. But if you put into drive and you want to see the back of the van, if you just go back to the settings page and press rear view camera, you can see the back of the van when driving forward. Also, a nice feature on the Ford, you do have your heated windscreen, which is here on your climate control panel. But like I say, you can use wired or wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, but this is a USB you need to use.